Jesus Christ,
That right there is
Argyle.
Now let's talk about
Argyle.
When we talk about
Argyle.
Please, Mac, I'm dying to talk about
Argyle.
with you all day, okay?
All right, real talk. What the fuck is this movie? Who even directed it?
Fuck.
From the twisted mind of Matthew Vaughn. Okay, so I can tell you right off the bat this movie isn't good. It's not even in Madam Web status where it's so bad it's good. You can't laugh at it at all. It's just bad. What's crazy is the actors in it are all good actors. And the director has made good films before. So what the fuck happened? Let's just start with our leading actors. I couldn't believe my eyes when I looked up the IMDb credits. The leads are Bryce Dallas Howard and Sam Rockwell. This guy...
I'm talking about.
These are both genuinely good actors. Editing note, I may be confusing the lead actress for Jessica Chastain because they were both in The Help, but her main acting credits are Jurassic World. Yeah, my bad, the lead was pretty bad in this role, so that makes sense. So anyways, in this movie when you watch it, it feels like one of those fake movies that's in another movie. This has to be one of those movies where like the actors are renewing their SAG cards, or it's a tax write-off. It doesn't even feel like a real movie. To finish my note on the acting, the performances were actually not that good. You can tell this was just a paycheck or something for most of the cast. Bryce Dallas Howard was okay, but I think they were looking for a funny Melissa McCarthy type for the lead. Or maybe like Tina Fey would work better. You needed someone funny as the lead and she's just stiff as a board. And she's not really charismatic as the lead either, so her performance just falls flat. Actually, you could have taken anyone from Parks and Rec and put them as the lead, and it would have been better casting. You think I'm joking? Megan Mullally, Aubrey Plaza, or Jenny Slate would have killed this role. Sam Rockwell delivered all of his lines sarcastically. And like the whole time I was watching this movie, I was thinking to myself, man, that guy looks so fucking familiar, but I couldn't put a name to his face. I don't think Sam Jackson even knew what movie he was in. They just filmed him spinning in a chair in front of a green screen and called it a day. Dua Lipa was awful. I thought she was playing a character that was sentient AI. If that was who her character was supposed to be, then kudos to her because she played a robot pretty well. I don't think she blinked once in the 5 minutes she was in the film. I didn't really care for Henry Cavill's performance either. He always plays a role as man who shows up, reads dialogue in a sultry voice, then leaves. The only decent performances I found were from Breaking Bad himself, Bryan Cranston, and from the legend herself, Miss Catherine O'Hara. They did play the parts pretty ham-fistedly, but I mean of the whole cast, they were the only ones actually trying. John Cena was also in this movie, and every time he showed up, my brain did this.
John Cena!
So now for the plot. Let's just start with this. It's awful. I'm just going to list what happens. Girl that would be our lead, Bryce, is author of popular spy novel series. Movie starts with her reading out a chapter from her novel while also imagining what she's reading out during that book event. The parts she's imagining are happening on screen, the opening dance number, and a car chase sequence. There's a sequence in the car chase that happens that is straight out of Madam Web. Anyways, she doesn't sign any books. Some people ask her questions about the book. It's foreshadowing or whatever. Someone asks her if she's got a date. She says yes. Cut to next shot of her at home with her cat. She continues working on her book. She finishes her next book, sends manuscript to Mama, who is Catherine O'Hara. Mom is also doubling as her editor. Mom says her ending is no good. She needs to workshop it. So we go back to writing. Bryce gets writer's block, so she decides to visit Mama cause maybe that will help or something. So she goes on a train, some guy tries to sit next to her and she says she's reserving the seat. Then another guy comes. Our lead, Sam Rockwell. He looks like a mix between a hobo and a hipster. Or maybe just a hipster. Anyways, he invades her space that she was quote reserving unquote and tries to make small talk with her. I swear I was paying attention during this part. But out of nowhere, Sam Rockwell just starts fighting with everyone on the train. Then eventually they parachute out of the train and wind up somewhere together. He tells her he's secretly a spy with the FBI, and that they're looking for a master file and only she can find it because her novels can predict the future, or that the plots she writes in the books are what happens in real life. This is a mislead. The movie is telling you this information, but it's to, I guess, try and throw you off from the real plot that comes eventually. I don't know why they bother trying to set it up like this because that's not really what's happening. But I think she doesn't buy it as the explanation for what's really happening. She's convinced she's some normal lady who is a recluse and just writes books and has a cat. But the plot of the film is about finding this file for some reason. Some evil people want it and they'll take over the world with it or some shit. I don't know. Also, something else about the movie, they put a lot of emphasis on the cat, and the cat isn't really even fucking important at all. At one point, it gets completely abandoned. A bunch of more shit happens I honestly can't remember. It's all kind of a blur. Mostly what happens is spy talk. You know that jargon of like, we have to hack these files and send this to that location and blah blah blah, that and espionage type shit is happening as well. They go to an apartment for some reason, and there's more fight scenes happening because there can't be a spy movie without some over-the-top fight scenes, right? Forgive me for not remembering all of the small plot details to this point and past this. But this is a 2-hour-long movie. They took that 2-hour runtime and ran with it. At one point, I looked at my wall and thought it was more interesting than anything that was happening on screen. That's rare for me to be that disinterested in a film. You know it's bad when you're constantly checking how many more minutes are left in it. And that's what I was doing nearly every 5 minutes. I haven't even mentioned Henry Cavill or his awful wig. He's a figment of her imagination. So she's like imagining him because he's the character in her novels, but that's how she sees herself when she looks in a mirror. As a spy, which is like, gee, I wonder why, hint hint, foreshadow foreshadow. It's as subtle as the letter S in the word subtle is. But this leads into the plot twist of the movie that was kind of obvious if you've ever seen a spy movie before. And that's that Bryce Dallas Howard was really Argyle the whole time. She is this super badass secret agent because of course she is. We find out this revelation when we are introduced to Sam Jackson in front of a green screen. He's in Picard's vineyard for some goddamn reason. He can't just be chilling in a hotel room or a house. It's gotta be a wine vineyard. It looks straight like the one from Star Trek Next Gen. So then after we learn who she is, a plot twist of the plot twist happens. Her parents turn out to be the two evil villains in the movie. Who would have ever seen that coming? It probably would have been a more effective plot twist if Bryan Cranston wasn't in almost every shot of the movie as the villain. So anyways, the plot twist of the plot twist is that the villain's brainwashed Argyle. Why? I couldn't fucking tell you why. They could have just killed the bitch, but that wouldn't make for an interesting movie now, would it? I mean, neither did this, if we're being honest. So she's a secret agent, and then on top of that, she's a super secret sleeper agent who is under a false pseudonym of being a storybook writer. But remember earlier that misdirect I was telling you about, how she could predict what was going to happen. That was all a lie. The books she was writing were her own memories about the events of the film, which is why she saw herself as a spy in Henry Cavill. It was her subconscious rejecting the brainwashing. Now, is this the most original plot I've ever seen in a movie? No, Matthew Vaughn literally did this in Kingsman. This movie, at certain points, feels like I'm watching a lesser version of Kingsman. I'm gonna go off track for a bit here. Honestly, if they were to cut a solid hour off this film and give you the plot revelations that Bryce is a secret agent earlier and that her novels are really her memories, then the second plot twist that she's a sleeper agent as the climax becomes 10 times more interesting. And by doing this, you don't get sacked with the misdirect that her novels are predicting the future where the writers of this movie take you for an idiot, because that's clearly not what's happening. There's something that's lost in movies not being 90 minutes anymore. You have to be able to tell a story more effectively than this. It takes almost 2 hours, an hour and a half, to reach this point in the film. This movie is just constantly throwing plot twists and action scenes at you, that it becomes less and less interesting as you watch it. This would work more as a video game, where they pad out the plot by constantly throwing curveballs at you than it does as a movie. It reminds me of that Resident Evil game where you're on a boat as Jill Valentine. It's called Resident Evil Revelations. Other than it being better written than this movie, it works because the plot is actually good. The story keeps you interested as you're killing zombies on a boat and trying to solve puzzles. It's overall a well-made game. In that regard of being written well and keeping you interested, Argyle fails considerably. I think the worst part about Argyle is just that it's boring. I went off on a tangent there. I was at the plot twist of the plot twist where we find out that Bryce Dallas Howard was secretly brainwashed by Bryan Cranston, and he was pretending to be her dad. She pretends to be evil after learning this. She shoots Sam Rockwell, but in a way that doesn't kill him because of course she can do that. She is the best, most super badass woman that has ever been a spy. Ever. Duh. Also, we cannot forget the fact that Bryce Dallas Howard is a woman and Sam Rockwell is a man. So of course that means that they have to be in love with each other. Even though they have no chemistry at all together. I'm just gonna cut to the chase. A bunch of action scenes and spy mumbo-jumbo happens. Eventually we're on the Metal Gear Solid 5 boat at the end of the movie. She breaks out of being a sleeper agent trance with another plot twist involving a character in the beginning of the movie that didn't die from being shot in the chest somehow miraculously. She beats the villains in the end. Her and Sam Rockwell make out. She finally finishes her novel, and then that's it. It ends with Henry Cavill in a worse, more offensive wig, literally asking the audience, "I bet you have more questions now, don't you?" To which I responded, "No," as I turned my iPad off. I completely watched this movie legally, and didn't just stream it from one of those sketchy movie streaming websites. With all that out of the way, now we have to talk about the action set pieces. I kid you not. All of the action set pieces in the movie look like this. Now there is a scene that is so stupid. It was the reason I decided to make this video at all, and yes, it's the fucking ridiculous oil skating scene. I never thought I would see something so stupid in a big budget Hollywood movie in my life. But here we are. Okay, let's talk about this scene. Okay, so context right. It's Bryce Dallas Howard and Sam Rockwell, trapped in a room of goons and there's oil fucking everywhere. So Bryce gets the idea of ice skating cause apparently she was great at it. If you don't know by now, she is the best at everything. Bryce can do no wrong in this movie. She's the best spy. She's an excellent figure skater. Keep in mind that we're being flooded with oil for some reason in this scene. Okay, so she grabs 2 blades and sticks them in her shoes. You heard that right. She turns her shoes into ice skates even though I don't think that's how they make ice skates. And she ice skates on the oil. Let me say that again. In this movie, there is a scene where Bryce Dallas Howard ice skates on oil. This was me watching that scene. How did anyone making this movie think that you could actually figure skate on crude oil? It doesn't work like that. It's so fucking stupid it completely takes you out of the movie. I was like, okay, I'm done. I can't think of something I've seen in a movie that matches that level of stupidity. Then Bryce, one by one, beats up all the goons who just stand there and don't fight back, as she is fucking ice skating on oil beating people up. Maybe if they worked the floor freezing over somehow, it could work. It'd still be stupid as hell, but you can ice skate on ice. But the properties of oil, you can't skate on it. Take out the fact that it's a movie. Try ice skating on oil, what would happen? You'd get stuck in it. Scientifically, it would be impossible because of its texture and density to skate on crude oil. Just the absolute dumbest scene I've seen in a movie in a long time. My last point for this review is that Matthew Vaughn is a pretty good director. How did he direct this? I didn't really touch on his directing. He has a pretty solid track record. I said it earlier, but I don't know what happened here. Even the action set pieces weren't good. I don't know. I guess even good directors miss sometimes. Not everyone can be Denis Villeneuve. Now for my closing thoughts. I would say pass on Argyle. It's just bad all around, and it's so boring on top of everything else. What I would recommend, if you haven't played Resident Evil Revelations, give that a shot. I think it's on every platform now. It's a highly underrated game. Or even check out this Killer Bean movie.